So without further ado, I'd like to welcome my guest. Like I said, straight from Ohio. As a matter of fact, it is Cincinnati, Ohio, correct, Mike?
That's right.
There you go. First from Cincinnati, Ohio. Mike started, Ying, you can identify this. Ying, he started with a two-family, and now he's went from a two-family to developer to a owning hotels. Okay? So he went from zero to millions. So tonight, Mike's gonna tell us the secret sauce that you need to put on your sandwich to make you bigger and stronger, right? To make things grow. All right. So without further ado, once again, welcome, Mike. Thank you for coming.
Hey, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate you having me, Lawrence, and congratulations to all you. And I may mispronounce names, but Harrietta, you just did 400 units as a GP. Tiffany's out there doing passive units and self-directed. Ying with his first deal. These are amazing self-storage. Khadijah just getting started. I mean, these are all amazing. Airbnb. I mean, so my point, no matter where you want to go, it's just taking action and get it started. As they say, execution is worship. And so I'm just so excited for you guys and excited to be here just to share the story and I not hopefully I know if you're in love with this real estate, you'll get something out of this starter because if somebody as myself started with nothing and I grew up, I didn't have any wealthy friends, nor was my family wealthy, and quite frankly, some of my friends are still broke. So. Uh, so, I started and we just worked our way up. And Ying, yes, my story is I started with a two family. Matter of fact, I did a video about it today. I started with a two family, a duplex, and literally I purchased it with $1,000. Uh, I negotiated an owner finance deal where the mortgage payment was $700 a month. I immediately got it rented and from the tenant and got a roommate, as they call house hacking, that paid me $700 a month, and I was living rent free. Then I took the deposits that I had to make the down payment of $3,000. I ended up collecting over $2,000 a month in the first 60 days. That paid my down payment, and then I purchased it for $1,000 out of my pocket. I had bad credit, and I was just getting started in the game. Had no real estate experience. I didn't know how to paint. Matter of fact, when I went upstairs to paint the unit, my friends that did construction told me to go back downstairs because I did a terrible job. So if someone like me with no skill set can go from there, and listen to this, 20 years later, that same two family I purchased on a land contract, owner finance, just sold for $230,000 in I'll say a C minus area. So that's the power of buying real estate. That's the power of maintaining and leveraging. I just wanted to talk with you, nothing, share my story. And at the end, I'll take questions on whatever you guys want to learn about. I've done it all from uh, F and D neighborhoods to now developing A-class projects. I did write a book, From Broke to Millions. I don't have it here. Here, I'll share something here. Uh, that's the cover of my book here. From Broke to Millions. I don't know if you can see that, but that's my book. And I'll put that in the chat. And Jerome, the bus Bettis, did the forward on that book, Super Bowl champion. And so for me, it started off, I really wanted to be in real estate. And like I said, I started with that two family. And from there, I did some more no money down deals. I learned about these deals back when I was 16 years old. And they say deals, I mean strategies. I found a book. Well, actually, I was fascinated about money and I wanted to learn how to make money. And so at the age of 15, 16, I went to the library and I wanted to find out about junk bonds because junk bonds was the thing to invest in back in the day. And when I got there and I opened up the book, the minimum investment back in uh, what is that, 1982, 84, somewhere around there. No, 1984, 85. The minimum investment was $50,000. So I immediately, that was like 250, 300,000 a day. I immediately closed that book up, put it back on the shelf, and started looking around for something else. And then I came across Robert Allen, No Money Down, and I learned all these no money down techniques. And what it really did was show me how to think out of the box. It's not that you don't have to have money for a deal. You have to have money for a deal, but it doesn't have to come out of your pocket. And that's what we call OPM. But then it goes on a larger scale now, some of you already know, as syndications. I use these same strategies that I learned from Robert Allen uh, today in my $100 million developments. I've done a lot of these deals with no money out of my pocket. I raised capital. There's deals that I did put up the money. I did what you call put my money at risk and then got it all back once we had a proof of concept and a project that we could move forward. Um, with that, so jumping back, so as I started doing deals, uh, no money, I acquired about 8 different properties, 2 full-service car washes, and I was at about 300,000 a year. I was making in cash flow, and I was 28 years old. Life was good. I'll never forget. I was driving this Q45 Infinity with the peanut butter. I had cornrows and wearing wife beaters and Timberlands every day. And life was good, and I always had, I don't know, a couple of $1,000s in my pocket because the car wash was a cash business, and I lost it all. Uh, I didn't have any strategies. I didn't have any reserves. Um, I, things just went up. They say save for a rainy day. Well, literally at my car wash, it rained for 90 days straight. And I still hung in there, but eventually I went out of business. I couldn't keep up, and I was robbing Peter to repay Paul, and I was leveraging my real estate. Now, the one thing I did, I was kind of over leveraged on my deals, and then it began to crumble, and I got foreclosed and evicted out of my own home, and I was couch surfing and basically homeless. And finally, my mom and dad let me move back home, and I was 30 years old. And I'll have to say it was pretty sexy because they painted my room pink and lavender, and they had all these roses all around in my room. And but from there, I started all over. Uh, I didn't quit. I just read books intensively. Probably read like 60 books a year on for those 2 years that I was just sitting at home and working. And I got my real estate license. And then from there, I found investment deals, and I basically worked for fees. And so I would find real estate deals where I was the I became the property manager. I was the construction manager. Um, I was the leasing agent. I did everything. And so I'll never forget my first 2 deals. I found for around 30,000, 15 to $30,000. I got an investor. I told him, "You keep everything. I'm just going to manage the project." I got it up and running and rented it out. And then each of those we sold in less than a year for over 60, 70,000. So each of them netted $30,000 each on the deal. And I probably walked away with 6,000 a piece on those deals. And that's kind of how I survived. And immediately from there, I uh, I stopped. I said that's enough of that, and I started doing my own deals. And through my real estate uh, license, I ended up meeting who I call Old Man Dave. Oh, Gary. And God rest him, he passed away 2 years ago. But old man Gary, um, he uh, he lent me over $200,000 at 2 points at 10%, and that was the beginning of my career. And then I started teaching real estate at Scarlet Oaks, which are like local adult ed courses. And I started meeting more and more investors. And the next thing you know, I have about 3 to 5 million to do deals. And uh, I learned about low income houses working with the model group. And that was one of the things, some of you already know where you want to go. Some of you may not know where you want to go, or you don't know where to go. Like, what's so great now is you have these social media, and that's why we're here today with these meetup groups. You can take a coaching class, or you can intern and add value and work for free. Yes, I know some of you are like, man, I'm not working for free, especially in this time of age. But so many great lessons are learned from working under some major groups. I worked with model development, and I didn't actually work for free. They just held my realtor license. And from there, I was still brokering deals, but I learned how to do developments. They were one of the largest low income developers in Cincinnati. I think today they probably own over 10,000 units, maybe 12,000 units. And they single handedly are responsible for those who know about Cincinnati, downtown over the Rhine. It's one of the most sought after parts of Cincinnati and known across the country now. And so from there, they gave me the opportunity to acquire a multifamily. They basically gave me the crumbs. They was like, look, Mike, I don't really want this deal, but you can have it. And they handed me a 27 unit deal. And he said, if you knock it out, we'll come back and buy it. And I knocked it out of the park. Now, what was so unique? This was in the FD neighborhood, low income. I know you don't believe it, but they didn't really have internet down there at the time. And what was that? I forgot the main web page, but literally I had to learn how to market a different way because my class of people I was marketing to didn't have that type. They didn't may not even had a phone at home. So literally, I had what they call tear offs, and I used to go visit agencies. So I went everywhere where I thought a tenant would mine would be and post one of these tear offs with the phone number of apartment. And I visited agencies and they filled my place up. And then word got out I was one of the best property managers with low income. And people started bringing me more. And immediately in 6 months to a year, I went from 27 units to uh, owning 60 units and managing additional 150, which then that began to help build my skill set on how I could scale up and manage. And it was really the school of hard knocks. I really didn't have a background in management. All I did was ask questions, and I didn't really have any resources. So I had to learn quick on my feet. But the good thing, I was around model and I got to see how they structured their management system. I saw how they had maintenance doing certain things or and how they would keep their books. And all I did, now some of you in college we say it's better to cheat than repeat, but as we get older, they say it's better to model. Okay, so I was modeling after these groups, and and with that I was allowed to grow, and from there I had the confidence to acquire uh, a 48 unit. I did a couple other deals, but the 48 unit was the first time we bought it right after COVID. No, I'm sorry, I jumped too far. Right after the Great Recession. At the Great Recession, now some of you ain't gonna believe this, but literally, I was buying multifamilies for 4,000 and 8,000 a unit, and they only need like 10,000. So I think some of you know. So I was all in this building for about 12,000 a unit, 15,000 a unit. So overall, in layman's terms, I was in it for like 400,000, and I sold it for 1.6 million 5 years later. And that was my first deal. I netted $1 million. And after that, I kept finding more and more deals and partnering up with people that had better skill set or better operator. But I was the deal maker. And every year we started closing deals where we were netting a million, 1.5 million, 2 million. And then from there, uh, I wanted to, I knew though what I was doing wasn't sustainable. And what I mean by that is I was still in the D and F market, and I slowly moved to C market in the B and A. Now, I don't know if any of you know the difference between the D and B market, but it's literally night and day. Even the psychology. I remember when I had D and F properties, it would be November, and tenants would call like, Mr. Mike, I'm gonna be late with my rent, and I would say, well, what's late? And they would say, well, it's November now. They said, well, I can pay you in February. I said, well, damn, February? They said, yeah, I get my tax refund then. I said, yeah, okay. And here's the crazy thing. I went along with it. And but that was the relationship I had to work with them. Now, moving on to C and B, it was like I moved to heaven because uh, they would call Mr. Mike, I'm gonna be late with my rent, and it's like the 31st or the first, and I said, well, what's late? And it's like I'm gonna have to pay you on the fourth. I said, well, don't let it ever happen again. so, so those are the great things that I loved about apartments, and you know I was and then I'm jumping now, but as you grow, you're gonna be uncomfortable. And why is it that you're uncomfortable? Well, you're doing something you never done before, and it's okay. And you're going to be afraid. And but what I'm telling you is you have to push forward. As I always like to say, you will never win if you quit. And here's the thing: when you're comfortable, meaning like you can sit on your couch and sit back and watch TV, well, that's fine. I'm glad you have the time. You earned it, but you won't grow. It's when you step out of your comfort zone and you start moving into this wilderness of developing or hotels or large apartments, a wilderness that you have not done, and managing through these security agreements and these PPMs and learning all these laws and internal rates of returns. And sometimes you feel lost, but yet as you continue to share your message, eventually someone will act as a bridge to get you across. And that's by taking action. But it all starts with a vision and imagination. Imagination is everything. And it's because of my imagination, because I envisioned, when I went broke you know, you would think the time you were broke, that would be the time you quit. But in my time I went broke, I kept dreaming even bigger. Back, let's see, that was about 2003, 2004, right after, I would love to blame it on 9/11 that I lost everything, but it was because I didn't, like, again, I shared, I didn't have reserves. But the great thing, here's the great thing, because I lost everything, because I got foreclosed on, because I got evicted out of my own home, when the Great Recession came, I killed it. I became stable. That's when I became well off. Those lessons, those failures educated and gave me stepping stones to really know how to execute. So I literally, in the Great Recession where everybody was losing, I started winning because I was buying mortgage notes. I knew how to do short sales. I knew how to do these foreclosures. I was negotiating with banks and buying people's properties back for pennies on the dollars and then helping them pay their investors off. So but through those things, what I'm sharing with you is in those uncomfortable times. When I was broke, it was very uncomfortable. Again, I was living at home with my mom and dad. I'm 30 years old. I'm supposed to be in my prime. Spent 4 years there, and I like my mom and dad, but this it is what it is. And but my point is, you got to work to that. And so when I did a hotel, because the reason I kept scaling up, I want to be able to put sophisticated management, I'm not going to even say sophisticated management, but um, a higher skill set that can manage A class properties and B class properties. Because you could probably get anybody to manage an A or B property, but once you start getting the F, D, and C, those are a little more challenging. But I had this dream of doing resorts and hotels and media and things like that. And I went to work, and it's all coming true now. Like right now, I'm doing $100 million development in downtown prime Sarasota, where we're doing 35 condos, 120 room Hilton Tapestry, and some retail space. Now, let me tell you something. I didn't know what I was doing. I wish I could tell you I knew everything. No, but guess what? I brought a team in, and with my team, we were able to make that project come to reality. And tomorrow, I'm actually going down um, to do this project. Well, to do the opening of our sales center. Now, what's so great about this, in layman's terms, when we first started doing this project, the value of a condo was selling at $600 a square foot. So, in layman's terms, condos, 1,000 square foot condo will sell for 600,000. 2,000 square foot sell for 1.2. Well, now by the time we come in the ground, now the condos are selling at $1,100 a square foot. I'm selling my condos now for 2.4 million. By the time I finish selling all my condos, I'll have my hotel almost free and clear and paid off all our investors. Like those are the deals that we like to get into. But it wasn't always that easy. Um, Getting into the hotel business was probably one of the toughest things I've ever done, because I didn't have the skill set. Matter of fact, but I knew the importance of a team, and because and again, how do I know that? I failed before. I had the opportunity to win an RFP on a project, and this RFP was in Cincinnati, Ohio, where we was going to do a hotel, and I think we are doing two hotels and an apartment. Bottom line, I didn't have the right team. And then on top of it, I brought this $1 billion investment group to the table, and they tried to kick me out of my own deal. Anyway, I lost that project in 400,000, and quite frankly, it was I was embarrassed. Uh, I was kind of ashamed, uh, mainly because I was going around telling my whole family, "I'm Rick James. I'm rich, bitch," from Dave Chappelle. And but no, it all fell apart. But because of that loss, I knew how to structure teams. I knew how to make it acceptable. And because of that, I put an amazing team together that managed and owned over 2 billion in assets of hotels. And when you look at the executive summary, it had me as a financial analyst. Now everybody was like that knew me. It's like, why do you have yourself as a financial analyst? And I was like, hey, nobody's gonna write this financial analyst a check for a hotel, but they will with this team. And because of that, that began my career in hotels. And now I'm over 4 hotels, building my fifth, and we have over 200 million in assets, and we're still growing, and we'll be at $1 billion in assets in the next 7 years. So hey, I'm Mike Ealy from Broke to Millions, and that's my story. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much, man. Wow. Well, you know what? Before we open the floor to questions, right? I know people have a lot of questions. I can tell everybody in everybody's eye. Harrietta's like foaming at the mouth to answer questions. So I'm gonna get mine first, and Harrietta. All right. And the Yin got something going on. I know everybody wants to ask questions, but you know what? I just want to make a comment. You made it. You said something. You dropped a whole lot of bombs in. You dropped a whole lot of stuff here. Execution is worship. Strategy. Don't forget the reserves. Don't come up short. Right. Don't over leverage. Right. This is things you were saying. Reading. Adding value. Build your skill set. Ask questions. You said but you said one thing twice. Teamwork. Teamwork, right? Collaborating and working together with someone else and creating the right team. So the question I want to ask you is, how do you form the right team? What are you looking for to have the right team? Or the right team to be in your team?
That's a great question. Now here's the crazy part. I am the worst person to be HR. I'm terrible at it, right? But kind of partner with people, I'm pretty good. The key thing about partnering with people and teaming with people are being aligned, having the same goals. Because if you're not aligned and you don't have the same goal, it's not going to work. And I'm telling you, when you combine with a partner, it's like a marriage. Now, listen, some of you already dating or special or married or were married. And look, you love that person. And you know, when you argue, you hate and get, well, I don't go hate, but you upset and don't want to talk to them. Well, can you imagine if you don't like them and you got to keep working through these deals day in and day out? Like me and my partner, Nate, we could point fingers at each other right now for what we're going through because we're in the process of taking over our own manager. It's very complicated. It's convoluted, but it's going to be so impactful for our business. And if I didn't like him, we would be in serious trouble because we're talking every day. And one thing, I hate to talk. I know you don't believe me, but I don't like talking all the time. I know that's hard to believe. But you have to be in line because we have to work together, and everything is not always going to be great. You're not always going to have a profit every month. Your maintenance and your furnace and the boiler in the building is not going to work. Your employees are not always going to show up every day. Somebody is not going to do the accounting all right. You're going to have investors looking for their money and looking for explanation. And if you don't have the right team to work together to help bring that back together, I mean, you're gonna fail because you can't work through these type of environments. And so I've always wanted to know people's goal, and I take my time. I don't rush into deals. A lot of people I partner with, I've worked with or talked to for over 2, 3, 4, 5 years before I even partner with them. And I'm just patient like that. And I was fortunate because I lost everything. Well, technically I lost all physical things. See, I was fortunate enough to lose everything, but realize I had everything. As long as you breathing and you can talk to your family, man, life is cool, man. It ain't that much a big deal. And that's why people, when they see me and it be a major problem, it's a storm and the waves are rocking the boat, and I'm just sitting in the boat like, man, it's all good, man. Let's figure out how we're gonna do this and we move on. And so that's the one thing. Obtaining a partner is just making sure your goals align and you kind of have the same beliefs. Now, I'm not just talking about religious beliefs or anything like that. I'm just same beliefs of how you want to accomplish things. But yet everybody's adding value. Now, if nobody's adding value and one's continue to give and one continues to take, it's not going to work. It's got to be a balance. Sometimes one's giving, some's taking. Sometimes the other one's giving, the other one's taking. Sometimes you both give it. Sometimes you both take it.
Mm. Thank you. I'm writing this stuff down as you go. It's just like you're dropping bombs, nuggets, man. You're dropping nuggets here.
It's gonna be like that.
Anybody want a question? Anybody want to start a question? I'm gonna start with Ying. How about Ying?
Tiffany had one here.
Oh, Tiffany had one. Yeah, okay. Okay.
What are your thoughts on hotels in the
Mhm.
secondary and tertiary markets? That's a great question, Tiffany. Um, you say that because I actually have a hotel in a secondary. I don't even know. I wouldn't call it secondary, tertiary market. I have a hotel in El Reno, Oklahoma, and quite frankly, it's a small hotel. It's 85, 86 rooms. Now, I'm actually doing well. I'm at 74, 75% occupancy, but my ADR is a little low. For people who don't know what the ADR, that's your average daily rate. In apartments, we call that monthly rental, but we in the hotels they break it down in daily rental. So average daily rate, average daily rental, and my daily rental, average daily rate is around $90. I would really kill it if I was at $100 or more average daily rate. Um, but you can make money. Now, I don't have the right management in place. That's why I'm taking over. When I take over, I should be able to bring costs down to about 130,000 a month. Um, and but my hotel is doing 180, anywhere from 170 to 100, 170 to 200,000 a month. So I should be able to net anywhere from after debt, and that 130 including debt. I should net, four to 600,000 a year off of that, and I only got $1 million in that deal. So 40% on a million, that's a 40% return. I'm doing a 50-50. So investors will make 20, I would make 20. So, in a long story, tertiary markets can be profitable if you have the right deal. It doesn't matter where it is, as long as you have the right deal and the right system in place. Now, ideally, though, I probably will get out of that market, exit soon, because I bought it in COVID. It was a good deal, and I was just getting started. Now, my strategy is only to buy opportunity projects in suburbs or near major cities. And when I say major cities, I'm not necessarily saying uh, Class A like LA, New York. I think Philly's in there, um, but like Cincinnati, Indianapolis, or the suburbs of those. So I want to be in more destination areas. So, but I know plenty of people that buy in Wheeling, West Virginia, and they have hotel assets there, and they're killing it. They're just doing amazing. So it just really always depends on the project.
Thank you, Mike. Ying.
Before I actually get on my question, I'm not really familiar with the terms secondary and tertiary markets. Do you guys mind if you kind of expand on that, please?
Yeah. So first market, and not first market. I forgot the name of somebody help me out, but like your top.
Primary.
Say that again.
Primary, right? Primary.
Primary. Okay. And then you got your top 25 MSA, blah blah blah. And so like New York, LA, Atlanta, Phoenix, I think. Phoenix probably fit in. Miami definitely fit in there, right? Those are your kind of top class, top 10, 12 MSA properties, right? Chicago. Secondary be, I'll just say it's Cincinnati, uh, Columbus, uh, Tucson, Arizona. Although Tucson is growing, that probably is not a good one, but I think you get the gist of it. The tertiary market is like they're off the cut, they're off the map, kind of, right? They're a little small township uh, that really nobody even knows about. I hate to say it like that, but they like Berwyn, West Virginia. Okay, that's where my daddy, my grandfather, they all grew up in the coal mines, right? A little town, But off them highways, you'll see a whole bunch of little branded hotels there. You know, those are called your tertiary markets. They don't even, you ain't even classified really. That's kind of what that means.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Yeah, so the second question is, so, I really do appreciate your story. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's everybody's fears, especially when you're doing your first real estate deal, like the potential faults. Like I'm seeing these numbers and, when you see these numbers as big as they are for someone that's your first deal, you start to get overwhelmed. And I just wanted to get your mindset to really just overcome these fears. Cause doing everything by yourself, I'm single, unmarried. The only responsibility I have is a pet cat that I, helped me get through COVID. How do you keep that mindset to keep focusing on your goals and so on and so forth, which kind of goes on to the next question, but I want to leave that on to you first.
Well, first of all, you're single. You're in the best situation you could ever be in. And the reason I say that is not, let's just cut to it. You ain't got nobody depending on you. So if you screw up, first of all, it don't matter. All right. You only got you and the cat to take care of. That's the great thing. Now, for a lot of us that kids or companion, partner, whatever, children, man, that's in the back of their mind. I cannot screw this up, right? Which is the reason that holds people back. Because, like, if I fail, I'm not hurting me. I'm hurting my kid. I can't put no food on the table. I can't take them on that vacation. I can't let them go on that field trip. So those are things that hold people back. So first of all, you ain't got no links or chains tied to you. So that's great, right? So go explore. Now here's the crazy thing: your first deal is always the toughest deal. I don't know too many people that their first deal was really easy. I mean, there's some, but for the majority of us, because yes, you're overthinking the deal, analysis paralysis. You don't want to make a mistake. Well, here's the thing: you're going to make a mistake. It doesn't matter. I don't care how much you know. You're going to screw something up. You're going to miss something. Now, you're scared off of your deal. Can you imagine I'm doing $100 million deal? And here's the thing: at the very beginning, when you give, right? You give here, like, okay, I'll give on that. That's $100,000. And then you give here. Oh, that's just 300,000, then 500,000. The next thing you know, the project keeps growing. Next thing you know, you got about 4 or 5 million in gives or separation. So at some point, you're going to have to know what you want and be confident and say it with conviction and demand it. And that's where I am now. Like, I don't have time to half step. Now, I know you're saying, well, Mike, I'm just starting. How do I get there? You continue to read, you continue to educate, go get your coach. Now, that's one thing I don't necessarily regret because that's my personality. But I do know if I would have went out and got a coach or joined one of these programs for 1,500 bucks, and I wouldn't necessarily say I was ego driven. I was just like, man, I'm not paying $1,500 for them to tell me this. Like, I already know that. What you gonna tell me different? But what happens, you get into a community that they're all aligned, all doing the same thing, and they're sharing their experiences and they're sharing their mistakes that they made that help you move forward to catapult you over that bridge, right? And so that's how I keep the mind. That's one way you can help keep your mindset and your sanity, right? What as men, I'm gonna go there a little bit. Men, whenever we have a problem, people say, "Well, what's wrong?" And they just look at you and say nothing, but yet their cape is torn and their suit is ripped, and they look at as a superhero, but they don't feel like it inside. Well, in real estate, you want to be that superhero, but you don't always know where the kryptonite is sitting. And so being inside of a group and continue to educate yourself, you're never gonna not uh, 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 be around some kryptonite, but you know how to manage it if it does happen, so you can fly around it to get to your destination. And so when you surround yourself by people, and then whatever you do, whether you pray, you meditate, I listen to videos. Matter of fact, just being straight up, I was fortunate enough that I had good friends. I don't care what religion, modality you use. I did the Daniel fast at the beginning of the year. And basically, we do vegan and we do prayer and meditation uh, all day for 21 days. And we talked to each other. So I cleared my chest. And because I was reading things that were uplifting, my diet changed. And I'll never forget, I listened to, is it Earl Nightingale, Lawrence? I listened to the Best Kept Secret or the Secret Something Secret. And it was nothing he said that was extraordinary or something I never heard before. But yet he said it so simple, and it was a reminder that it empowered me and uplifted me. I think it says faith comes by hearing and hearing the word. Hearing other people talk it, hearing other people give testimonies, hearing other people share their story continues to build boldness and confidence and show example that you can do it. And the more you're around people like that, the more you do it. I'm surrounded by people that all they do is own their own business. All they do is real estate, and that's all they talk about. And they're my friends. Now, don't get me wrong, I still love my other friends I grew up with. We get together time to time, but I wanted to change my environment. And so I went all in. And I'm not saying that we're friends just because they make money. No, I didn't say do that. I'm saying we had a belief in real estate, and because of that, we found out we had other like-minded traits, and we became good friends. And now our kids hang out and we vacation together. So I didn't say that. So I want to be clear: do not just become friend with somebody because they got money. Forget all that. And matter of fact, all money ain't good money. Matter of fact, I've turned millions of dollars away, and I needed it. All right, I'm gonna tell you, I turned the too many. Remember, I told you I was broke and I had no money, and I had people offer me $1 million. I didn't take it. So that's how I kept my mindset. I know you just tell me to be quiet because I know I'll ramble on and on, man. So tell me to be quiet, okay?
I appreciate it though. Thank you.
All right.
I did have another question, unless someone else in the group had one.
Nobody's up on mute. I'm just gonna call anybody. You got Ying.
So the next part is like, the destination, right? Keeping the goal in mind, making that goal for the end of the year, for the end of 5 years. Obviously, you have exit strategies and all these plannings around, but my situation, and forgive me if I'm being selfish here, kind of rotating to mine. I made this position so that I can actually get my foot into real estate, right? I don't have a plan long term quite yet. I'm still trying to make it with the new year and everything, but the purpose was to get into real estate. So that was the first step here. Now I'm still forming my goals for the end of the year, by the end of 5 years, by the end of 10 years, so that I have something to work towards as opposed to just getting as much properties as possible. Obviously, that's not ideal, but the idea is to scale. With your goals and your orientations and your exit strategies, how do you keep it in line? How often do you update it? How often do you change it? How often do you collaborate with others, especially your partner, on what you're trying to achieve by the end of the year, by the end of 5 years, by the end of 10 years, and so on and so forth?
That's a good question, man. It all, for me, goals, it all started with a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. And when I say that is, some of you may have read the book. What was that? I forgot, but that's where I got that from. And if your goal doesn't make you cringe when you think about it, it's not big enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I had created this big hair audacious goals that I would create apartments and hotels and resorts. And then I literally just started writing everything down. And then I I I kind of narrowed it down to like, okay, what can I do first? And what can I do after that? And then as an engineer with my engineer brain, I kind of categorized everything so it all can build together. Right? I was like, well, I'll do this two family. And after I do a two family, I get to a four family. After I get a four family, I keep doing that. Eventually, I'll get to a 20 unit or 40 unit. But I wish I could say that my goal, I didn't necessarily have a goal at that time to do 100 units. It was just the opportunity to present itself. And yes, though, when you get so where you at, you can kind of put your goal together, but make it big and just go after it and and pull out two or three things that you can do and make it happen that year. And what's going to happen is it's going to change because as me and my partner go through these trials and errors, these journeys in real estate, we realize, man, you know what? I'm glad we did a deal, but I really didn't like that process. I don't never want to do that again. So guess what? It get cuts off the list, and we go on to the next thing. And then it's all timing. You know, we wanted to get into media and movies. Well, it just so happened COVID came and we got forced into it. And now, because I continue to do media and now I understand how it all works, now we found some of the big people to do motion movie pictures. So in the next 5 years, because we have cash flow coming in, we'll start funding some real movies. So my point is, there's no real art to it. I wish I could tell you that I'm not, first of all, I'm not that, I don't have that kind of personality. Like, I'm going to do this at this period of time. I do write it out, but it's kind of loosely, but I do put action steps. And then every year you're just going to adjust. That's it. And now here's the thing. This is why I said being single is pretty good because how old are you now, Ying?
25.
Yeah. Ying, you weren't you when you're 19, you're not the same person you were when you're 19, right?
Yeah.
When you're 30, you're not going to be the same person you were when you're 25. And it's going to keep going like that. And so your interests are going to change, and that's okay. What I encourage you is just keep putting big goals, keep trying things. And when you find something you like, then go after it. That's it. So don't worry about so much. But what I do want you to do is set bigger goals. Make yourself cringe. The only reason I'm in the hotels because I created this crazy goal. I was like, I'm gonna own 100 hotels. And when I said that, uh, it was Vincent Vincent Norman. He said, "Shoot for the moon because if you miss, you'll land amongst the stars." And so, with that big, hairy, audacious goal, I shot for the moon to get 100 hotels, but I missed and only got 4. So, did I fail or did I shoot for the moon and just landed amongst the stars? All right. I think Tiff has some more questions in there, Lawrence. I'm gonna try to pull it up. Unless you got somebody else you want to go to. You're on mute. You're on mute,
You're on mute,
Lawrence.
Lawrence. But I think the question ahead of me was, are you interested in affordable housing development in Atlanta? And I was asking about just how your numbers change when you're doing affordable housing versus, your Class A housing.
Yeah, so yes, we like affordable housing. I have friends out there. I mean, affordable housing is going to be huge over the next few years. The reason for that, population is growing, especially Atlanta. I mean, it's growing like Atlanta is no longer just Atlanta. It's this gigantic. It's turning into like Shanghai. Everybody been there. Shanghai is like Shanghai. When I drive through Shanghai, it's like I drove through Chicago, Houston. So there we go. And so, but affordable housing is great. What the key thing about affordable housing is when you're doing your numbers, it's all about what they call a gap, right? So typically, when a developer does a deal, they at least want to make 10% on their money. Now, I'm not saying that's what I want to make. I'm just saying that's kind of the standard practice, at least to make 10%. So now there's other fees that they take as well, but they want to be able to generate that type of return. And I'm saying cash on cash, then there's also equity multiples. I won't go too deep into that. But what happens is, let's say the project ends up costing $20 million. Well, with $20 million project, and let's say you had to put 20% down for easy math, you had 2 million. So this project should generate 200,000 a year in cash flow. Well, for whatever reason, the cost is so high, it only generates 80,000 a year, right? So what is that? Let's just say 100,000 for easy math. That's a 5% cash on cash return. So then you need to be able to reduce that gap in order to create a better return. And so how do you do that? Well, maybe you need to get a 300,000 or 500,000 gap allowance from the city, or LITEX, or NITEX. All right, low income tax credits. There's also federal tax credits. There's also forgivable loans. And what happens is, because you can't charge that top rent, instead of charging the 1,800, now you only can charge 700 or 900. And so you got that gap finance or the forgivable loan, or they'll give you a lower interest rate. Like in Columbus, they're giving people 2% if they do affordable housing, and they'll match some funds. So you got to adjust your model based on those things. Not getting too technical, but I don't know if that helped you at all in trying to explain that. I can go a little deeper in there, but I hope that gave you a little bit of information.
So, anyone has a question? Michelle, Khadijah, Angela, got another question? Bridget, Arita, Bernadette?
I do have a question. When you were talking about how you began to make money before you went broke, how are those deals coming to you? How are you finding, for example, like the car wash and the other properties that you purchased at that time?
I'm a little older, but like, deals were a lot easier to find at that time when I first started. I mean, literally, now I was doing smaller deals, but back when I was 27, 20, between 27 and 40, I'm 51 now, but between 27 and 40, deals were so much easier. I'll, I'll finish a deal, or right when I'm about to finish rehabbing, I can go to MLS and find me another deal into that. Now, I did have relationships with different brokers and different lenders and different title companies. And somebody typed in, I was a part of RIA. So I was always networking. I always met some wholesalers. So I always had multiple ways. And then on top of it, um, I did have Craigslist, so we would find deals like this. And but most of all, I found a lot of my deals when I first started in the newspaper. I know somebody don't even believe it no more, but the classified ads, I found my first two multifamily. I don't even know if they have classified ads anymore anywhere, but uh, but so now it's so competitive because like a lot of hedge funds that used to just stick to the stock market, they started dumping their money
Real estate.
into real estate, and it didn't help even more with what's our guy Berkshire Hathaway out of Nebraska, what's his name?
Warren Buffett.
Warren.
Yeah, Buffett, the man himself. Warren Buffett literally goes on and said, if I had extra money, I would buy real estate. And the whole market shifted just like that. And but I mean, YouTube to this day, now wholesalers are not coming across deals like they used to because a lot of people are dumping money into real estate now. But literally, wholesalers, I still network with brokers, operators, people who property manage. They don't send you deals. Why? Because they want to manage. They don't want to own, they want to manage. They make money setting up fees and charging. And if you can align their fees up to match with your performer, that's a great relationship. A lot of my hotel deals came from my operator. Some of my great apartment deals came from a wholesaler. I even found some deals on LoopNet. Now I know some people are like, man, LoopNet. Yeah, I found about 3 or 4 great deals. My first deal I netted $1 million came from LoopNet. Now those deals on LoopNet, man, people still find deals, but they're not there as readily as it used to be. So again, continue to network, join Facebook groups or TikTok groups, all these different groups. There's so many groups on the social media now. Everybody's sharing their deals. You just tell them what you're looking for, and people will share.
I want to say something before we continue on here, Michael. I'm going to take two, 3 more questions. Is that okay with you, Michael?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. This is a meetup, but it's also a networking event. If you don't put your information in chat, how people get to know you? If they don't get to know you, they don't get to like you. And if they don't get to like you, they can't get to trust you. And they're not going to invest in you. So for the KLT of this business or life period, you need to put your stuff in, your name, your contact information in the chat. Okay, so.
Well, since you put it like that, Lawrence.
Well, listen. Put it in the chat, right? So Angela says, in your partnership deals, do you get loans to purchase and develop properties as an LLC?
Okay, hold on. Let me type this in. I'm gonna come back to that.
Okay.
LLC. Hold on. I got this stuff here. I think that's it. Okay, say that one more time. You're on mute. Oh, you're on mute, but I'm gonna read it.
In your partnership deals, do you get loans to purchase and develop properties as an LLC?
In your purchase deal, do you get loans to purchase and develop properties? Yes. So when you first start off in kind of small single families and smaller multi-units, although you can put your property in the LLC, most of the time the banks, you're going to do what we call a recourse loan, meaning you're responsible. If this loan goes in default, you're responsible for it, right? So they can come collect. Now, if you get into non-recourse loan, and non-recourse are typically, if you go through a standard loan, that's over $1 million or more, or you may be doing private equity, meaning you have a private investor, or like one of you guys on here, Angela wants to lend $50,000. Well, she would lend money to me, and we'll put a mortgage tied to my house, and or maybe she invests as a limited partner as equity. Um, the actual asset would be the security, and not me. Whereas when I did, like I said, I did my smaller loans, banks wanted me, especially like Fifth Third. If I did a refinance, if I had an LLC, they made me put it in my personal name, then I could refinance. Now, when I got into larger deals and like $1 million deals plus, I used the LLC, a Delaware Corp, all that. And even though they still looked at my credit and my partners, they still gave me a loan, and I kept it in my LLC. But you still are kind of liable if it's a recourse loan. Now, non-recourse, which I've done a few of those, or CMBS debt, those are non-recourse loans. So literally, if you default, well, not so much default, but if you're going to default, you literally can walk away and they can't come after anything. Just to give you a perfect example, well, I'll just call him Doc. I bought a hotel from him in El Reno, and it was going down when the market changed. Then he got hit with COVID, so he got the market dropped. Then he got hit with COVID. He's bleeding cash, and because he didn't perform any of the bad boy carve outs, meaning misappropriate any funds, and he was paying everything he was supposed to, he literally just handed the keys and walked away, and there was no repercussions after that. But the crazy thing was he already had refinanced and pulled his cash out. So I mean, he wasn't really losing anything. So yes, we still kind of do that from time to time. But I don't have anything in my name except my house, which it shouldn't be. Um, any given time, that would be switched into a trust fund or uh, um, something like that. You're mute again.
One more question.
Yep.
Bernadette wants to know, do you participate as a KP or GP in other people's deals?
Yes and no. So GP, general partner, KP, key principal. Um, what what I've done is brought people to my deal. For example, my first hotel deal, I didn't have the net worth. Me and my partner combined didn't have the net worth, and we were signing for debt that was going to be over $10 million. So I went and got a credit partner who became a part of GP, KP, and because they signed for debt, they end up getting like 10% of the deal and I think a quarter of a point for signing. But no, I mean, becoming a part of GPKP, that's something we do. I mean, I have people that brought deals or did things with us as we kind of did a small joint venture and they came on as a KP GP. So we're open to it. It just depends on the project.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, you know what, Michael, thank you very much for coming on tonight.